Hey there, trail trekkers and tall tale seekers. You're tuned in to the 406 Life, the podcast where Montana Max, your Bigfoot buddy and outlaw gear mascot, yeah, that's me, leads you through the wild, weird, and wonderful corners of Montana. Each week we share stories, legends, and laughs from the last best place. So grab your boots and sense of adventure, because we're about to make some Montana-sized memories. This episode's powered by Outlaw Gear, where rebels get their style. Want to look legendary? Mosey over to I'mAnOutlaw.com and claim your outlaw status. Well, hello there, friends, neighbors, curious wanderers, and whoever accidentally hit play while trying to call their cousin in Kalispell. I'm Montana Max, your local Bigfoot, professional mountain watcher, and the only podcast host in Montana who has never once complained about having a bad hair day. Every day is a bad hair day. Eventually, you stop fighting it and build a brand around it. Before we wander off into the high country, I need a small favor. If you enjoy the 406 Life, take a minute and give the podcast a rating on whatever app you're using. Those ratings help new folks find the show. They help the podcast grow, and most importantly, they provide me with the validation I apparently require now that I have become a media personality. I spent decades hiding from human attention. Now I check the ratings. Life comes at you fast. Today we're talking about Montana's mountains. But this is not going to be 15 minutes of me naming peaks like an auctioneer with a topographic map. Montana's mountains are evidence, the result of continents shoving, magma pushing, glaciers scraping, rivers choosing sides, and rocks occasionally deciding they would rather be musical instruments. Montana did not get one neat mountain chain and call it good. That would have been too organized. We have mountains that were folded, mountains that were lifted, mountains made from ancient basement rock, and separate ranges standing out in the prairie like somebody forgot to put them away. That last group is commonly called the Island Ranges. Picture central Montana from high above. You have miles of open grassland, then suddenly there is a dark, timbered mass rising from it. The Judiths, the Highwoods, the Little Rockies, the Bear Paws, the Sweetgrass Hills, the Big Snowies. Depending on which geologist you ask, the Crazies and Little Belts may be included too. Even the experts do not completely agree on who belongs in the Island Range Club. I understand. I once tried to start a woodland social club. The elk refused to attend if the wolves were invited. The mountain goats wanted the meetings held on a cliff, and the grizzlies ate the refreshments. We met once. But before we head out onto the prairie, let's start up north in Glacier National Park, where the mountains look like somebody stacked layers of rock, shoved the whole pile sideways, and then hired glaciers to sharpen the edges, which, geologically speaking, is not a terrible summary. Roughly 60 to 70 million years ago, movement along what is called the Lewis overthrust pushed very old sedimentary rock up and over much younger rock. Later, enormous glaciers carved through the landscape, creating the sharp ridges, deep valleys, and bowl-shaped basins we recognize today. So in parts of glacier, older rock ended up sitting on top of younger rock. That is the geological equivalent of cleaning by shoving everything under the bed, except the bed is a mountain range, and the mess is millions of years old. Glacier is also home to Triple Divide Peak, one of the most remarkable plumbing fixtures on the continent. Water falling on different sides of that mountain can enter 3 enormous drainage systems. One route eventually leads west toward the Pacific through the Columbia River system. Another runs into the Missouri, then the Mississippi, and toward the Gulf of Mexico. A third heads north through Canadian waters toward Hudson Bay. One storm, one mountain, raindrops landing near each other, then leaving on completely different cross-continental trips. I once watched 3 raindrops hit near the top of a ridge. One said it was going west, one said south, the third said Canada sounded peaceful. I wished them luck and stayed put, because Bigfoots do not fit comfortably in commercial airline seats. Now let's move down toward the Beartooth Mountains, where Montana keeps something even older than my jokes. Granite Peak, Montana's highest point, reaches 12,799 feet. That is impressive. But the height is not the part that bends your brain. Scientists have dated zircon crystals from part of the Beartooths to as much as 3.96 billion years old. Billion. With a B. Earth itself is about 4.5 billion years old. Those crystals had already been around for an almost unimaginable stretch of time before dinosaurs appeared, before forests, before bison, before humans, before anyone bought an old barn, hauled the wood 2 states away, and used it to make a luxury condo look authentically Montana. I found an ancient-looking rock in the Beartooths once and carried it around for 3 days because I was convinced it held the secrets of the universe. Turned out it was an ordinary rock. Still knows more than my cousin Earl. That kind of age changes the way you think about mountains. They feel permanent, but they rise, crack, erode, and change. Their rock may be almost as old as the planet, while their sharp valleys were carved much later by glaciers. Montana geology is layers of history piled on top of each other, sometimes literally. And sometimes those layers make music. About 18 miles east of Butte, near Pipestone, there is a giant pile of dark boulders known as the Ringing Rocks. Strike the right one lightly with a hammer or another metal object, and it can answer with a clear, bell-like note instead of the dull clunk you expect from a rock. The first time I heard them, I thought somebody had installed a doorbell in the mountains. I spent 20 minutes looking for the cabin. There was no cabin. Scientists have a strong hypothesis for why the rocks ring. The boulders are made from dense, crystalline material formed when thick magmas mixed and cooled around 75 to 80 million years ago. Sound travels efficiently through that dense rock. The boulders are also stacked with open spaces between them, allowing the whole pile to resonate somewhat like the hollow body of a drum or guitar. Here is what makes the place especially strange. Remove an individual rock from the pile, and its tone becomes weaker. The rock matters, but its position in the larger formation matters too. There is probably a life lesson in there about community. Or maybe rocks are just weird. Scientists still cannot say the full explanation is proven beyond all doubt, so the Ringing Rocks have kept part of their mystery. I like that. If you visit, the Bureau of Land Management says the road requires a high-clearance vehicle. That means do not take your low little car up there because a navigation app told you it would be mostly scenic. And do not take any rocks. It is a protected site. Tap them gently. Enjoy Montana's natural rock concert and leave every member of the band on stage. I tried singing with them once. The rocks asked me to leave. How long have you been mentally moved out? That moment you stop seeing your house as home. It's a sign. Most people ignore it for years, watching equity sit there doing nothing. Most wanted real estate helps you turn that feeling into action. You're already gone. Let them actually sell it. Mostwantedrealestate.net, how the West is sold. Farther south in the Pioneer Mountains is another place where Montana lets people get their hands into the geology. Crystal Park sits at about 7,800 feet and covers roughly 220 acres. Quartz crystals are scattered through decomposed granite, and visitors can dig in designated areas with hand tools. You might find clear quartz, smoky gray pieces, or purple amethyst. The crystals formed after molten granite intruded roughly 72 million years ago. As it cooled, hot, mineral-rich water circulated through fractures, and quartz formed in veins and cavities. Weathering later broke down the surrounding granite and freed the harder crystals. Today, people kneel in the dirt and rediscover them one trowel at a time. I went digging there with a fellow named Larry once. Larry arrived with 3 buckets, 4 shovels, knee pads, a magnifying glass, and the confidence of a man who had already spent his future gemstone fortune. After 4 hours, Larry found 2 tiny quartz points and half of an old sandwich bag. A 9-year-old 20 feet away found a beautiful purple crystal before lunch. Larry did not take it well. Most finds are keepsakes, not retirement funds, hand tools only, no tunneling, limited digging days, and seasonal operations. Check current Forest Service conditions because snow, weather, and fire can change plans faster than a Montana forecast. Now let's head back toward those island ranges rising from the prairie. Many of them formed when magma pushed upward beneath or through layers of older sedimentary rock. In some places, thick magma forced its way between underground layers and pushed the surface into a dome. That feature is called a laccolith. If you need an image, you will picture a giant underground blister. I apologize to every geologist who just dropped a coffee cup. The Sweetgrass Hills near the Canadian border rose from igneous activity around 50 million years ago. They stand nearly 3,000 feet above the surrounding prairie and receive about twice as much precipitation as the plains below. That creates an island of cooler forested habitat for elk, deer, and even a few moose. But these hills and many other Montana ranges are not just geological curiosities or outdoor playgrounds. The Sweetgrass Hills have deep spiritual and historical associations with several tribal nations. The Crazy Mountains are culturally and spiritually important to the Apsayaluke or Crow people. Long before somebody drew a recreation map, people knew these places, named them, traveled through them, and held ceremonies there. We enter a landscape with meaning far deeper than our own reason for visiting. Enjoy the view. Learn the history. Leave artifacts, stone features, and ceremonial places alone. Do not be the person who damages something sacred for a social media picture. Even Bigfoot has standards. The Crazies also show how complicated mountain access can become. 19th century railroad grants created a checkerboard pattern of alternating public and private land. That pattern has fueled arguments over trails and access for decades. Seeing public land does not mean you can legally cross whatever lies between you and it. Check current maps, confirm the route, respect gates and private property. A screenshot from somebody's hunting form is not a legal easement. Montana distance adds another problem. A mountain can look like it is right over there. Right over there is not a unit of distance. It is a trap. I once told a tourist a lake was right over the ridge. To me, that meant 6 miles, 2 creek crossings, and a mild disagreement with a porcupine. Apparently, humans expect more detail. These island ranges affect wildlife in surprising ways, too. They may contain good mountain habitat, but the surrounding prairie can isolate the animals living there. Mountain goats historically lived farther west, but apparently did not colonize several island ranges. Beginning in the 1940s, wildlife crews moved goats into places including the high woods, big snowies, and crazies. Some transplanted populations did well. The big snowies population eventually failed, and low genetic diversity is considered one likely reason. Nature is not furniture. You cannot set a species somewhere attractive and assume the arrangement works. Native cutthroat trout once occupied many cold island range waters. Introduced trout later competed or bred with them in some drainages. Introduced wild turkeys, meanwhile, found success in many island range habitats. Wildlife management is complicated. Every decision moves more than one piece. Real talk, we all have a million things to do. That's why the UPS Store 4489 exists. Printing, shipping, mailbox services, notary work, it's all there. Stop wasting time. Go see them at 2047 North Last Chance Gulch, Helena, Montana, your one-stop shop for small business solutions. And people have moved plenty of rock, too. Gold, silver, and gems brought miners into the Little Rockies, Judiths, Moccasins, and Little Belts. Zortman, Kendall, and Maiden grew around mineral discoveries, while Yogo Gulch became famous for blue sapphires. But mineral wealth can leave a long bill behind. Mining in the Zortman-Landusky area exposed sulfide-bearing rock that contributed to acidic, metal-contaminated drainage. Water from the area has required long-term treatment to protect downstream systems connected to the Milk and Missouri rivers and the Fort Belknap Indian Reservation. That part rarely appears in the romantic version of the gold rush story. The miners leave, the company changes, the town empties, the water still flows. Montana's mountains are beautiful, but beauty does not erase consequences. These landscapes carry everything that happened to them, the natural forces and the human decisions. That is what I want you to remember the next time a Montana skyline stops you in your tracks. You are not looking at background scenery. You may be looking at rock almost 4 billion years old, at water choosing between 3 continental journeys, at sacred homeland, wildlife refuge, a public access puzzle, the source of a fortune, or the beginning of an environmental debt. And sometimes you're looking at a pile of boulders that plays music better than I do. If you want to go deeper into this story, the complete blog post is waiting for you at the 406life.com. You will find the full details there, along with links to the reliable sources behind the facts. And I have one more announcement. Montana Max merchandise is now available. That's right. After years of avoiding cameras, I can now be purchased on merchandise. Fame is confusing. You can shop the Montana Max collection at the 406life.com. I'll make sure the direct link is included with this episode, too. Pick up something for yourself, or for that one friend who insists every blurry shape beside the road is me. And before you go, one more time, I'll ask you to please rate the 406 Life podcast. Share this episode with somebody who loves Montana, or strange facts they can repeat at supper until everybody asks them to stop. Thanks for wandering through the high country with me. Stay curious, respect the land. Check the map before crossing the gate. And remember, if the mountain looks close, it probably isn't. This is Montana Max, over and out. Got a Montana story, business, or unsolved mystery you want on the show? Head to the 406life.com and drop me a line. No smoke signals required. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss a stomp, stumble, or tall tale. Tell your friends, tell your grandma, heck, tell that guy who swears he saw me near Whitefish. I was just buying donuts, all right? Until next time, keep it outrageous, keep it kind, and keep living the 406 life. Montana Max, over and out.
That's the 406 life.